Class, November 2nd, 2005. I was trying to come up with a topic, and I've gone through portions of a certain book in the past called Dibre Shalom VeEmet. And Dibre Shalom VeEmet has come out not only with a second revised edition, but even a third revised edition. And now he came out with a second volume. And in the second volume, he has many, many more items that he's dealing with. But he has a section in the back where he is examining how different Sephardim in different countries viewed Maran and the acceptance of Maran and the portrayal of Maran in the Piskei halakhah of the Hachamim in ensuing generations since the time of Maran, which is very important. He has now, in this second volume, a section called Ma'amar Vav, the sixth, we'll call it, dissertation. And he's looking at the history of Pesach halakhah from Matan Torah until Maran and beyond. How there were different stages of the game. I think it's important, as we're always discussing halakhah, we also should have the history behind what we're doing, and then we'll see where he goes from there. I only glanced at it this morning for about 20 minutes, and it's very long, obviously. It's not something we're going to finish tonight. It's a good 30 pages, but I think we could glean a lot of important information from it. And within it, he's going to bring a lot of different examples of halakha ma'aseh and how different hachamim, mainly Dibre Shalom Mesas, as opposed to Hacham Yosef, look at Maran, how they view Maran and how they interpret Maran on different issues. I think it could be interesting. Okay. Rishonim pasku et halakha. Kol echad lefi shittato. In the beginning we had the Rishonim. Okay, we're going to skip that first time period of the Tanakh and of the Sofrim and the Zugod and the Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Seboraim and the Geonim. We're going to jump right to the Rishonim first. Okay? We have the Rishonim. The Rishonim paskut halakha kol echad lefi shittato. Each guy, he was posek according to his own style. Lefi nosach ha-Talmud she'amad l'shuto. Based upon that particular nosach of the Gemara that he happened to have in front of him. And according to the style that he learned the Gemara and how he learned how to interpret the Gemara from his Hachamim. And according to that tradition of the community that he was within. Obviously, they had different opinions. They differed upon the way they view things and differed upon the bottom line, what the halakha was. In the way they came down to the halakha and in what the actual halakhot that they followed and they told their constituents to follow. The basic underlying feature that we see about this time of the Rishonim was mahloket. Each guy had his own way and was always fighting with the next guy. B'nigud lahem. But on the flip side now, Maran Rabbi Yosef Qaru alav shalom nireh kemi shenatash et haderech hashitatit. He was able to bring everything together. B'halachot lo me'atot hu mitchashev b'de'ot hashonot v'cholel et kullan b'psikato. In many halachot, he was able to think through all the different opinions and to incorporate them together into his Piskei halakhah. So we're going to examine this style of Maran in different halachot. Obviously we know Ben Sion Abbas Shaul he's talking about. כבר עמד על קו מיוחד זה של מרן במבואו לשלוש שעות אור ציון, חלק ב'. And he's saying we already know that Chacham Ben Sion Abbas Shaul alav shalom already touched upon this issue and discussed it somewhat in the introduction to his Or Sion volume 2. במאמרנו זה אנחנו רוצים להוסיף לאפיין את התופעה. We want to expand this concept further. לעמוד על היקפה, על סיבותיה ועל השלכותיה ובעיקר על משמעותה בתולדות ימי התורה. We want to look at the ramifications upon this and see how it was expanded upon and what, how it affected halakhah throughout the generations. Ulam, לפני שנידון בפסיקתו של מרן, before we actually go and look at Maran, יש למקם אותו, we have to place him, בתולדות ההלכה, within the history of halakha, מאז מתן תורה ועד ימינו, since מתן תורה until our day. תולדות ההלכה מתאפיינות בחלוקתן לתקופות שונות. We can break up the different stages of halakha according to different stages of history. בכל תקופה חדשה, חשו חכמיה כי הם אינם יכולים לחלוק על חכמי התקופה הקודמת. Within each תקופה, within each time period, the Hachamim basically saw that they could not argue against the Hachamim of the previous תקופה הקודמת, the previous portion of history. הדוגמה הבולטת ביותר, the example that stands out the most, היא זו של האמוראים שהרגישו כי הם אינם מסוגלים לסתור את דברי התנאים. The biggest one, as we know, is the Amoraim, that means the Hachamim of the Gemara, saw and felt that they were in no position to contradict the words of the Tanaim, which are the Hachamim of the Mishnah. הם הביעו בזה את הרעיון של ירידת דורות. They brought to us this concept of ירידת דורות. Not just descending, but the belittling of the generations. That within each generation, the generation started off as great, generation of great, and they lessened, diminished throughout the years. וכן אמר ביזרה, אמר בא בר זמונה, אם ראשונים בין מלאכים, אנו בני אנשים. If these Rishonim, they were the sons of Malachim, of angels, anu bnei anashim, we are the sons of man. Rishonim bnei anashim, if they are the sons of man, anu kahamurim, we are like donkeys. Velo kahamuro shel Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, v'shel Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, ella kishe'ar hamurim. And not even like the hamurim, the donkeys of these hachamim, whose their donkeys happen to be famous, but we are just like regular donkeys. And this is a quote from the Gemara of Masechet Shabbat. תחושה זו של סיבוב ההיסטוריה על סירה כדי לעבור מתקופה גבוהה לתקופה נמוכה הורגשה פעמים רבות בתולדות התורה. And we sensed this falling of one generation from a higher one to a lower one over the years. תקופות בתורה, מכאן להבחין בעשר תקופות. We're going to break things down into 10 different stages. תקופת התנ"ך, the period of the Tanakh. Rabbi Nasir, you're going to enjoy this one. זאת תקופה של 1,000 שנה בדיוק. This was a period of exactly 1,000 years. כמו שכתב רבנו סעדיה גאון במבואו לספר הגלוי שנמצא בגניזה. רבנו סעדיה גאון wrote the introduction to this book, ספר הגלוי, that we were just only recently found in the Geniza. And over there he writes that this period of the Tanakh was exactly 1,000 years, and we're going to see how he breaks it down. אכן, ממתן תורה ועד בניין בית ראשון חלפו 480 שנה. Okay, from Matan Torah until the building of the first Beit HaMikdash was 480 years. So that's very clear from the Nevi'im, from Malachim Aleph. Beit Rishon התקיים 410 שנה, ככתוב בסדר עולם. We know Beit Rishon, according to Seder Olam, stood for 410 years. גלות Babel, the Babylonian exile, נמשכה 70 שנה, 70 years. النبي أحرون ملأخي, the last Nabi, the last prophet ملأخي, نفتار 40 شنا أحرى بنيان بيت شني. He passed away 40 years after the building of بيت شني. بشنات 3,000 تاف ميم حياة البريئة, in the year 3,448 from creation, according to Sifr Kabbalah and Sifr Yohasin. Nisakim. We had the 480 years from Matan Torah until Beit Rishon. The 410 years of the existence of Beit Rishon. The 70 years of Gelut Babel. And the 40 years of until the time that Malachi passed away is exactly 1,000 years. בשנה זו הגיע אלכסנדר מוקדון לירושלים. In that year, Alexander the Great arrived at Jerusalem. והתחילו למנות למניין השטרות בשנת 3000 תמ"ת. From that time on, they stopped counting from the time of creation, but they started counting shetarot according to the years of the contracts, of business dealings. Okay? Minyan ze muzkar betehillah Masech Rosh Hashanah. We learn about this in Masech Rosh Hashanah, the Gemara. Al pi kituvim kol ha-ta'arichim be'igeret Rav Shirira Gaon. All the dates that we know from the letters of Rabbeinu Shirira Gaon, ve'al piv manah harambam et shirot ha-shemitah be'elchot shemitah ve'yobel. If you open up Harambam in the Mishneh Torah, in the laws of shemitah and yobel, the way he counts the years are all according to the shetarot, not according to the years of creation. Okay? Minyan zeh, this counting, butal al yedei haradbaz, it was annulled, done away with by Rabbeinu Haradbaz, Rabbeinu David ibn Abi Zimra, b'me'ah Ted in the 16th century. Okay? V'shabu l'mnot l'biriyah, and they returned, he brought it back, he stopped us from counting the shetarot years, and he brought us back to counting from creation. This counting wasn't only the beginning of the counting of from Malchut Yavan, of the Greek kingdom, but it also was a counting of the beginning of the end of prophecy within Israel. And therefore it has a very great significance. Now just a side point. But we had the first section of 1,000 years. Section 2. Tikufat Sofri. Okay, the scribes. Tikufat and Shekenes HaGedolah. This is the period of the Shekenes HaGedolah. Tikufat Shemonim Shana, it was an 80-year period. He Kedala 40 Shana Shel Nibu'ah Ad Pitilat Malachim, was 40 years of Nibu'ah until Malachi, and then another 40 years after that until Shimon HaSadiq. Then we have Tikufat HaZugot. We have the pairs, the famous pairs that we know about. That began from when? Yosef ben Yo'ezer and Yosef ben Yohanan, Bichlab ben Shammai, and ended the time of Hilib and Shammai. And this was a period of 290 years. Then we had the fourth period of Tikufat of the Tanaim. The Tanaim, like we said before, the halakhic of the Mishnah.
Who's the Zogot? Who are those?
The Zogot, like we had Yosef ben Yo'ezer and Yosef ben Yohanan, was the beginning of it, and the end of it was Hilib and Shammai.
They weren't really the Tanaim also?
No, they were before Tanaim. They were the Zogot. Between the Sofrim and the Tanaim. Okay? That was a 290 period, the period of the Zugot. They had all different types of pairs. Famous pairs. Then after that we had the Tanaim, which is a period of 200 years. It started off 50 years before the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, and it ended 150 years after the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, when Benu Yehudah HaNasi passed away. Then we have the fifth section, Tikufat HaAmuraim. Now we're dealing with the Amuraim, the Hachemim of the Gemara. It lasted 280 years. Mepitirat Rabbeinu HaKadosh, from the time that Yehudah HaNasi passed away, V'ad Hatimat Talmud, until the time of the closing of the Talmud, Bishnat Taf Yod Av Shetarot. According to the letters of Benu Shirira Gaon that we mentioned above, that happened in the year 811 of Shetarot, which is exactly the year 500 according to the Christian calendar that we use. Ha'amuraim lo halku ala Tanaim. Like we said previously, the Amuraim, the rabbis of the Gemara, did not fight against the words of the Tanaim, the rabbis of the Mishnah. But they worked a lot in deciding the law, coming down to a final law. Ha'amurah Aharon, who was the last Amurah? The last rabbi of the Gemara was who? Rabina Bered Rav Huna. Rabina, the son of Rav Huna. And he died in that same year, the year of 500 of the calendar that we're familiar with today. And that was the end of Hora'ah. He sof Hora'ah. That was the end of Pesikat Halakha. Then we go to Kufat Saboraim. Saboraim, as we know, were the people who basically finalized and closed off the Gemara. It was a period of 190 years. A period that we're still trying to learn a lot about. That was still, shady on a lot of details. So تكوفة של 190 שנה מחתימת التلمود ועד שנת دالت ألفيم طماط. Okay, until the year of creation, 4,449. Okay, or the year 689 of the way we count. What we'll call Common Era. Seboraim كتبوا كنرى كم سugyo بتلمود. It seems that the Seboraim wrote a few sugyot in the Gemara, based upon what we know from the Ramban and the Ran at the beginning of Kiddushin. كل السugiyot هؤلاء إنان مخيلot هراء. But these sugyot do not include any pesach halakhah. إلا רק נימוקים להלכות שנפסקו בתקופות הקודמות. But just general insights onto halachot that were written in the previous period. السبورائيم حشو شتم تكوفات هراء. The way the Seboraim saw it, that was the end of Hura'ah. That was the end of Pesach Halakha. They didn't know what was coming, in the future. They just saw what ended before them. They were only concerned with gathering together and editing the Talmud. מכל מקום, in any case, החתימה האמיתית של תלמוד הבבלי הייתה בסוף תקופת הסבוראים. And therefore, based upon this, the true conclusion and sealing and signing of the Talmud Babli, of the Babylonian Talmud, is at the end of this period of the Seboraim. تكوفات حزال, تكوفات حزال الحكامين تكران البرخاء مشترعت إمكان مشنات بتيراتو شل النبي أحرون ملأخي بعصوف تكوفات السبورائيم. Therefore, this period, when we hear people talk about Hazal said and Hazal said and Hazal this, Hazal that all started from the time that the Nabi Malachi passed away until the end of the Tikufa of the Seboraim.
It wasn't used before that.
It
It wasn't used before that.
wasn't used before that. We don't know Hazal before that. It was a period of Nabi'im, technically. Nobody referred to them as Hazal. And after the Seboraim, nobody refers to those rabbis as Hazal either. Okay, we have Geonim, and then we have Rishonim, and then we have Aharonim. So our Hazal period is from the passing away of Malachim, who passed away 40 years after the destruction, 40 years after the building of the second Beit HaMikdash, until the end of the period of the Seboraim, which was the year 689. If we summarize the years of this period, we will see that we have another period of 1,000 years. Remember, we started with 1,000 years at the beginning. Now we'll see another 1,000 years. We have the 40 years of Shimon HaSaddiq, 290 years of the Zugot, 200 years of the Tannaim, 280 years of the Amoraim, 190 years of the Seboraim. נמשך תקופת התורה שבעל פה שווה באורכה לתקופת התורה שבכתב. התקופה שבכתב period 1,000 years, and now the Torah שבעל פה period 1,000 years. וכל אחת מהן שווה לאלף שנה, and each one is 1,000 year, and they mirror each other. Then we go to the tekufa of the Geonim, the period of the Geonim. That was a period of 350 years that שמסתיימת עם פטירת רבנו האיה גאון. It ended with רבנו האיה גאון in the year 1038. Okay, yes, 1038, fine. From there we go to the Rishonim. The period of the Rishonim was 450 years. And it ended with Gerush, Sefarad, and Portugal. It ended with the expulsion from Spain and Portugal, being obviously between 1492 and 1497, correct?
Correct.
Correct, beautiful.
I thought the Rif was considered the last.
The Rif was a Rishon.
The first of that group.
The first of which group?
He was born in 1038.
Okay, so what you said.
So that's the period. Okay, so that's where they're going.
1038.
Okay.
That's exactly what we said.
Okay.
We have David Betesh's book over here on the Rishonim. We can pull it out and double check it. Rabbi Nissi, if you don't mind.
I got it.
Second English shelf, second book.
Shelf?
Yes, second book.
Yeah, that's a great book.
We will withhold comments upon what books are great and which books are not great right
Well,
now.
it's a good book for this choice.
Okay, so we said that the Rishonim was a 450-year period that concluded with Girush Sefarad in Portugal, 1492-1497. This basically defines for us, it's an argument that we had in the past, not an argument, more of a discussion. Was Maran a Rishon or not?
Right.
Different books list Maran differently.
Right.
This basically proves to us that he was not. Okay? Now we go to the Tikufa of the Shulchan Aruch. He's telling us over here, Zot Tikufa Shel 200 Shana, it was a 200-year period.
But wait, couldn't Maran originate in Spain?
Yeah, he was born there. He wasn't doing anything yet.
He was a baby. He left when he was a child. Toledo, Spain.
So he's not considered to that time period
No.
because he wouldn't read
Exactly.
then. Okay.
He grew up in Turkey.
Turkey or Salonika?
Adrianople, Salonika is so close that,
Alright.
you know.
Want to get technical on him?
Hey, look, Adrianople, that's where my family's from. You know?
Alright, so Tikufa of Shulchan Aruch, so Tikufa Shel 200 Shana, period of 200 years. Why 200 years? Shtehilata Girush Sefarad, the beginning was the expulsion from Spain, Vesofa Beherem Shehutal B'Misraim B'Shnat Taf Nun Zayin Al Sefer Peri Hadash B'Haskiyah de Silva Shehalakha Al Maran. When did it end? It ended in the year 1697 in Egypt when the Harem was put upon the Peri Hadash. The Peri Hadash
Really?
was a major commentary of halakhah written by Rabbi Haskell de Silva, and he argued more than anybody else with Maran and bashed Maran on many occasions. So if we're saying from 1497 to 1697, that's a 200 period of Shulchan Aruch. Me'az, since then, in Ud Ir'ur al-Sanchuto shel Maran, there has been no sort of controversy as to who Maran was and as if to we, base ourselves upon Maran or follow him or not. Abru imken 1008 שנים מאז נחתם התלמוד ועד קבלת השולחן ערוך בלי ערעור. Since there was a period of 1,008 years from the time that the Talmud was sealed until the acceptance of the full acceptance, I should say, of Maran Shulchan Aruch. Shuv yishran tekufa shel ke-1000 shana shepesika. We have again another period that we can look at as approximately 1,000 years of Pesika. And then we go into the tekufa of the Aharonim. Me'az etkabbela samchut Maran v'ad yaminu. So he's telling you from 1697 is when the Aharonim start. Okay? He's giving us a period between the Rishonim and Aharonim, a period of Shulchan Aruch, and the rabbis that were involved in that Shulchan Aruch period. Okay? Which is a 200-year span. Now we have the Aharonim, like we said, from 1697, from the acceptance of Maran Shulchan Aruch until our days. The Aharonim obviously is still going on and on. אין ספק כי סיום כל תקופה ותקופה נבע מתוכנית אלוהית מופלאה. There's no doubt that each period ended because of a master, godly plan. אך אפשר למצוא גם הסברים היסטוריים לסיומי רוב התקופה. But we could also find historical reasons for the end of each period. והוציא תקופת השולחן ערוך שאין לסיומה שום הסבר היסטורי, except for that period of the Shulchan Aruch that we cannot seem to find any sort of historical reason for. וסיום זה מבטא התערבות אלוהית גלויה. And this conclusion basically seems to show us God's hand involved in everything. המעבר מתקופת התנ"ך לתקופת הסופרים נגרם על ידי הפסקת הנבואה. Period. Very clear. That we move from the period of the Tanakh to the period of the Sofrim because the Nebuah stopped. המעבר מתקופת הסופרים לתקופת הזוגות נגרם על ידי הפסקת הניסים שהיו עדיין בימי שמעון הצדיק. Different between that period. Why? Because the actual miracles that were still occurring, they stopped. Those are the miracles that were still occurring during the days of Shimon HaSadiq that we know about from the Gemara.
I think he would go for something else over here.
Like what? Let's hear.
He would go for it's the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah.
Right.
Now you have the Zugot. It seems to be a change in the system somehow. The Mishnah is
but why? Why is the change?
Is it a switch over from countries?
No, we're not dealing with switchover of country.
No, there's a takeover by Alexander.
Right.
So I guess there's a shakedown in the system.
The takeover of Alexander happened before the Tekufa of the Sofrim.
Right, so it's going to be the end. Shimon HaSadiq is old when Alexander comes to
But now we're talking, but that would be the first period. We're talking about the second period now. This is where the move from the Sofrim to the Zugim, to the Zugot.
Correct.
Right.
That's the end of the Sofrim with Shimon HaSadiq.
Right.
And it's the handing over to the Zugot.
Right. So that's nothing to do with Alexander. Alexander was before.
No.
What do you mean no? Of course. Alexander was still in the period of the Tanakh.
No, doesn't Alexander meet Shimon HaSadiq?
Okay, fine. So what?
Right. So that's
It meets him, but still.
Shimon HaSadiq hands them the keys of the city, and the system, in a sense,
But Shimon HaSadiq was still alive. The Nisim was still going on until Shimon HaSadiq passed away. So how much period of time was that? We said Tekufat al-Sofrim, alright, was a Tekufat of the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. It was a period of 80 years only. It was a short period of time. It was 40 years of the Nibu'ah until Malachi passed away, and then 40 years of Shimon HaSadiq. That was it. Well, you want to say it's because of Alexander the Great? I still see Alexander the Great in the previous period, but let's say it overlapped. Okay, but in either case, according to the Gemara, that's when the Nisim, whatever miracles were going on, those stopped with the passing of Shimon HaSadiq, right? And then the next move, from the Tekufa of the Zugot until the Tekufa of the Tanaim, Nigram al Yedei Galut HaSanhedrin, according to Masechet Avodah Zarah. Vehofa'at HaMahlokot Haikib Kach. Okay, and all the arguments.
Right, so you have a major shift there.
Major. Then the move from the Tanaim to the Amoraim, because of the sealing off of the Mishnah.
Right.
Period.
Right.
There's nothing, nothing to argue with that.
So again, major shift now again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Mishnah is sealed.
The Mishnah is sealed.
Right.
Be with the Hannasi.
Right. Done.
Finished. He sealed it off. This is the halakhah, this is the Mishnah. We're done. We got Torah Shebichtab. We saw we had no choice. We had Torah Sheba'al Peh. We had to put it down in writing, and here it is. That's it.
Right.
We've collected all the different sayings, all the B'raitot, whatever we felt was, relevant. We put it together. We compiled it, and it's done. And he sealed it off.
Correct.
Then we move for the period of the Amoraim to the Seboraim, because obviously the Hatimah of the Talmud, the sealing of the Talmud, even though the Seboraim was still sealing it off. Okay, but what happened now? The Seboraim list, it was, like we said, was a shaky period. It was still not 100% clear about what was going on. By that Tekufa of the Seboraim to the Tekufa of the Geonim, alright, what happened? We had the Arabian conquest of the lands over there. We're dealing with a regular piece of history. The Arabs came in.
The other ones that edited the Gemara?
The Seboraim edited, yes. They did the final editing jobs of the Gemara.
They were also counters, right? For the text? You have to count the words also.
Count what words?
Never heard that.
Count the words of the Gemara?
What taxes or different things, or the mash and things. No?
Nothing that I'm familiar with. Rabbi? Okay, so we have the Arab conquest now came in. The Arabs came in and started sweeping in to Babel. So obviously, we have political upheaval now in the lands. It's changing things. Now the switch over from the Tekufa of the Geonim.
Right, but there's got to be something else that's happening between the Savoraim and the Geonim.
But what? We don't know.
Right,
we have no idea.
For us to have named them differently, there is here a change in between the two systems.
Do we know anything more than that though?
No, I don't know.
I know throughout.
And in the same country also.
Whatever we learned, when we were younger, we were always told that this period of Savoraim is a period like the Dark Ages. We just don't know what happened. History seems to have, erased itself, or been lost, or forgotten, whatever the case may be. Scott, any?
It would seem,
no idea.
It would seem that the Savoraim deal more directly with the Talmud.
Yes, they
from
do.
What we see, and the Geonim seem to be dealing a lot more with the public, with
actual questions.
Right, actual questions. So maybe that is the shift where you don't see the Tanaim, the Amoraim, and the Savoraim.
We just feel like
But you have to think about it like this now. What all of a sudden, until the time of Savoraim, everything was just theoretical learning, and there was no practical applications, and all of a sudden the Geonim came along, and all of a sudden we have practical applications of these laws that nobody dealt with before?
No, but maybe what it is that the Geonim are allowing themselves to write outside of whatever was concluded in the yeshivot, and not that they were saying anything. They're all basing themselves on the Talmud, absolutely, but we don't have any response from the earlier rabbis, Savoraim or Amoraim, outside of the Talmud.
No, we do not.
Also, this is a period when the communities which were relying on, Surah and those in Babel are now developing their own way of dealing with problems. And,
but why?
It's like the story of Barcelona that I mentioned last week. I don't know if you heard. The Jews in Barcelona wrote to the Babylonians and said, "Hey, our community is basically falling apart. They don't know how to pray anymore. We need your help." Mm-hmm. And somebody came from there and went, as you know, to Spain and kind of put them on the track and then put the Siddur together, put it together for them and put them back on track. They were like exporting their Judaism, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then those communities then became independent and were becoming more independent.
Okay.
So
how does it tie in, though?
Could be that the shift, according to Harambam, the shift is that we're getting more and more spread out, mm-hmm. and the ruling of the Geonim is thinning out because of that reason. Maybe the Geonim saw it that, by them writing letters to the outside communities, at some point they felt they still had some type of attachment and they control the communities outside of Babel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But by the time the Ramban is around, that's his argument. He says it's gone. They have no power anymore, not the power that they had at one time. So it could be that the Talmudic time and the Savoraim time still, they did have that power and that control, but the Geonic time is slowly thinning out.
Mm-hmm.
By the time Rambam is around, he fears that it's gone.
It was also there was a schism in Babylonia with Rosh Kala and the two families that were fighting with each other, which really weakened the credibility of them. Also, that's probably just another issue.
All these things are possibilities, but I don't think we'll ever know the truth to any of this. But all these theories make a lot of sense, and it could be possibly, all these factors tied in together.
Right. See, but one thing that it shows that they're all happening through a period of time.
Of course.
Right. It's not that it finishes at this, certain date, but it's through a process that the change is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just looking for a way to maintain the community educated.
Makes sense.
I've read numerous places, and I don't know if some of these historians who write this stuff, they just get it from one another, but with the Geonim going to Spain, that really ended the control of their control from Babylonia to the rest of the world.
But why should it end anything?
because the people developed on their own. It's just like people who move away from
Yeah, but
here
you see-
that go to Florida and
but
develop
why-
their own minhag.
Yeah, but you understand. What you're saying then is that if they never went, then everything in this family would have been totally eradicated. So they had no choice but to go and help out.
Right?
It's philosophy that came about.
It's just like any, if you get married, you start doing your own customs amongst your family. It's the same kind of thing. If you move, we were so scattered.
What's the major difference in
Big communities now.
What's the major difference of thought?
They develop their own rules and regulations, and maybe it's just like today. Oh, I don't care what that rabbi says. We have our own rabbi.
I don't think that there's a major difference in thought. It's just that you realize that situation changed.
But within Spain itself, obviously, we're not talking about the period of the Geonim yet, but within Spain itself, there were major differences between northern Spain and southern Spain.
Sure.
Spain, to which part?
And Spain was a very, in a lot of ways, was a very secular country too. People think they were very holy Jews, and they really weren't.
No,
they really
would be
weren't.
way earlier. It's the end of the Zugot.
Oh, really?
It would be at the student time of the temple.
Alright, let's continue. Alright, now, look at this one now. המעבר מתקופת הגאונים לתקופת הראשונים. Okay, this move from the Geonim to the Rishonim.
It's a famous story.
You're gonna like this. I know this, Rabbi Nissim likes this. נגרם על ידי ארבעת השיבויים שהקימו מרכזי תורה אסמאיים בקרוואן, בספרד ובאשכנז. We're all familiar with this famous story from Sefer Kabbalah, Abraham ibn Dawood, of these four captives.
The four captives.
Okay? That,
You know where they came from? Bari, Italy.
Yes, okay. They didn't come from Bari, Italy.
That area.
They didn't come from there.
By
way of there.
By way of there.
But they weren't from there.
That's what I mean on the ship.
Rabbi Bari.
Rabbi Bari, come on. I'll cut that part out. Bari, Italy doesn't get too much,
Okay. So now, like we said, this switch over from the period of the Geonim to the Rishonim was supposedly caused by these four refugees who were able to create centers of Torah in Karawan. Karawan, we'll call it Algeria for now, in Sepharad, and in Ashkenaz.
Where is the fourth one?
Who were the four of them, and what did the four of them do? In your book over there, they discussed them, don't they?
Rabbi Enoch, who what's it, the guy who fell on Sukkot from the Teva and he busted his head open? Yeah. He was from this group.
He was one of them?
Yeah. He was
Rabbi who?
The son Hanak ben Enoch.
Enoch.
On Sukkot he stood up, Simchat Torah.
In Cordova.
Cordova. And he stood up on the Teva, and the wood collapsed, and he fell and busted his head open.
Shortly before the decline of the Babylonian Geonim, Providence arranged for an occurrence, 990 Common Era, that would have far-reaching consequences for the entire diaspora and free the Jews from their dependence upon the Babylonian academies and their scholars. Four great Torah scholars from southern Italy, over here they're telling you they're from there, embarked on a sea voyage to raise money for the Torah academies of their country. The four sages were Rabbi Moshe ben Hanoch, Rabbi Hoshiel, Rabbi Shemariah ben Hanan, and a fourth, whose identity and fate are unknown.
Oh, his fate is unknown.
En route, they were captured by Ibn Rumaz, a Moorish Spain pirate in the service of the Spanish Caliph, who decided to offer them for ransom to four different Jewish communities along the Mediterranean coast. The rabbis wisely kept their identity secret for fear that Ibn Rumaz would extort huge sums in return for their freedom.
They throw away their identity cards.
The pirate carried out his plan with an outcome that was of historic benefit to Jewish life. Rabbi Moshe, together with his young son Hanoch, was ransomed by the Jews of Cordova under the leadership of Hasdai ibn Shaprut. The community soon recognized the erudition and eminence of the captive and appointed him their spiritual leader. Rabbi Moshe promptly established an academy and was succeeded by his son Rabbi Hanoch. Between them, they raised a new generation of scholars who would not have to look to Babylon for guidance on every question. Rabbi Shmuel HaNagid, Talmud scholar par excellence, poet and statesman, was one of Rabbi Moshe's disciples. Other yeshivot were later established in other Spanish cities. The study of Torah received a further impetus with the arrival in 1088 of Rabbi Ishaq al-Fasi from Morocco.
There you go.
Okay, now he's going to go through all of this. That's for you.
Yeah.
But he was al-Fasi, you're al-Fasa.
Yeah, the Turks with the A in English. You know, the story of how he became the chief rabbi. His son, the son became the chief rabbi. He walked into the story is, you know, he walked into the synagogue and he was sitting in the back row. One of these stories, right? And the rabbis had a question. They didn't know the answer, and he stood up and said, "Maybe I can help you." And he was dressed in rags, you know. And he stood up, and at that point they realized. They said, "Who are you?" And he told them his name. Right. And you know, they made him the rabbi, and then Shmuel Hanagid paid for his education and his kids' education.
I read that.
Yeah, it's a common story.
I'll just finish 1 second. Another of the captains of Hoshiel was brought to the shores of Tunisia, where he accomplished in the city of Kairouan what Rabbi Moshe did in Cordoba. His son, the famous Talmud commentator Rabbi Hanan El, and his illustrious disciple Rabbi Nassim Gaon ben Yaakov continued his work of making North Africa a major Torah center that became independent of Babylon in matters of Talmudic scholarship. So we had one guy so far in Spain.
So they're breaking away.
And we had one guy in Kairouan.
And then in 1100...
Let me just read the last paragraph.
Sure.
The third sage, Rabbi Shemariah ben al-Hanan, was ransomed in Egypt. He established an academy in Cairo, where he was succeeded by his son Rabbi al-Hanan. As a result, Cairo too became a thriving Jewish community and an important center of Torah knowledge. This is where he ends the three. We don't know about the fourth.
Right.
Over here, we read about Kairouan, Sepharad, and Ashkenaz.
He sent one to Ashkenaz here.
And here he sent it to Ashkenaz.
He sent him to Ashkenaz.
Over here he sent it to Cairo.
Right.
Which one is it?
I've never heard the Ashkenaz story.
Yeah, I never heard.
And I've read this.
Right.
I've read this story in many places.
Let's forget about this. Let's pull out Sefer Kabbalah. Rabbi Scott, the rabbi's right there. It's right on top of his head, practically. No, to your right, Rabbi. Keep going. Go. Yeah, the gold one. There you go.
Something else is coming out.
Yeah, something else. That's probably the Black Panthers. Probably the Black Panthers, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is the source of most of this. What is it? Yeah.
Black Panthers, he knows.
Black Panthers were Sephardim, Baba. Moroccans in Israel.
Oh, are they?
You didn't know that?
Are you serious?
The Black Panthers. Something about it sounds familiar, but no, I really don't know it.
You know about the Black Panthers in America, those blacks. This is about the Sephardi Black Panthers, the Moroccans in Israel. This was back in the 60s and 70s.
Huh.
Mainly 60s. Anyway, over here he would tell us more, but I'm not going to go start searching for every little detail of it. Do you want to go through all four of them? Let's go there.
Which book is this?
Sefer Kabbalah.
Sefer Kabbalah. Here we go. They encountered a ship carrying 4 great scholars who were traveling from the city of Bari to a city called Sephastin, and who were on their way to a Kala convention. Ibn al-Rumahis captured the ship and took the sages prisoner. One of them was Rabbi Hoshiel, the father of Rabbi Hananel. Another was Rabbi Moshe, the father of Rabbi Hanoch, who was taken prisoner with his wife and his son. Rabbi Hanoch, who at the time was but a young lad. The third was Rabbi Shemariah ben Rabbi Hanan. As for the fourth, I do not know his name. The commander wanted to violate Rabbi Moshe's wife inasmuch as she was exceedingly beautiful. Thereupon she cried out in Hebrew to her husband, Rabbi Moshe, and asked him whether or not those who drown in the sea will be quickened at the time of the resurrection of the dead. He replied unto her, the Lord said, I will bring them back from Bashan, and will bring them back from the depths of the sea. Having heard his reply, she cast herself into the sea and drowned. These sages did not tell a soul about themselves or their wisdom. The commander sold Rabbi Shemariah in Alexandria of Egypt. Over here in this book, it said Cairo.
This is the right thing.
This is the right thing.
This is it.
Rabbi Shemariah proceeded to Fustat, where he became head of the academy. Then he sold Rabbi Hoshiel on the coast of Ifriqiya. From there, the latter proceeded to the city of Kairouan, which at that time was the mightiest of all Muslim cities in the land of the Maghreb. where he became the head of the academy and where he begot his son Rabbeinu Hananel. Then the commander arrived at Cordoba, where he saw Rabbi Moshe along with Rabbi Hanoch.
The teacher of the Rif.
Rabbeinu Hananel, you're talking about. Yeah. He was redeemed by the people of Cordoba, who were under the impression that he was a man of no education. Now there was in Cordoba a synagogue that was called the College Synagogue, where a judge by the name of Rabbi Natan the Pious, who was a man of distinction, used to preside. However, the people of Spain were not thoroughly versed in the words of our rabbis of blessed memory. Nevertheless, with the little knowledge they did possess, they conducted a school and interpreted the traditions more or less accurately. Once, Rabbi Natan explained the law requiring immersion of the finger for each sprinkling, which is found in the tractate Yomah, but he was unable to explain it correctly. Thereupon, Rabbi Moshe, who was seated in the corner like an attendant, arose before Rabbi Natan and said to him, "Rabbi, this would result in an excess of immersions." When he and the students heard his words, they marveled to each other and asked him to explain the law to them. This he did quite properly. Then each of them propounded to him all the difficulties which they had, and he replied to them out of the abundance of his wisdom. Outside the college there were litigants who were not permitted to enter until the students had completed their lesson. On that day, Rabbi Natan, the judge, walked out, and the litigants followed him. However, he said to them, "I am no longer judge. This man, who is garbed in rags and is a stranger, is my master, and I shall be his disciple from this day on. You ought to appoint him judge of the community of Cordoba." And that is exactly what they did. The community then assigned him a large stipend and honored him with costly garments and a carriage. At that point, the commander wished to retract his sail. However, the king would not permit him to do so, for he was delighted by the fact that the Jews of his domain no longer had need of the people of Babylonia. The report of all this spread throughout the land of Spain and the Maghreb, and the students came to study under him. Moreover, all questions which had formerly been addressed to the academies were now directed to him. This affair occurred in the days of Rabbi Shedida in about 4750, somewhat more or less. So, the story that you said is not here.
Which one?
You said the guy died, he was standing up in the synagogue and died?
Oh, no, this is later. This is later. His son becomes the chief rabbi.
Right.
Simchat Torah, he falls. It's in here. This is where I got it from. It's look up Simchat Torah in the index. It's a very interesting story.
Now we have a Ma'abar, the move from the Tukufat Rishonim to the Shulchan Aruch was caused by Girus Farad, the expulsion. The Ma'abar mit Tukufat Shulchan Aruch, the Tukufat Ahronim, in Shum Hisber his story.
Right, but the 8th one is questionable. What he's saying.
Why?
Well, it might be, but you get only Shulchan Aruch writing a work of this sort. And
yes, she's the
a
only one.
lot of individuals that weren't very, in agreement with Shulchan Aruch.
Of course not. It was a new thing.
He's a new thing, and it's because, it's going to take a long, long time for that change to take place.
Maybe it's a Kabbalah movement also.
It was a 200-year period.
That's also true, because even before this period of time, you have already a Kabbalistic boom, with publication of the Zohar and so on and so forth.
There's no publication before 1492. The few items that were printed,
the printing press wasn't even invented until
exactly.
After that period.
But the
writings
are
Spanish
becoming
Jews.
more and more public. The people are using more and more the writings of the Kabbalah. Then the period of the Arizal comes around, and then there's a drastic change. That I think
What's a drastic change? Wait. What is a drastic change?
Well, there is a takeover. There is a takeover by the
No, by what?
Within the learning of the people.
What's different in the Rosh and the Shulchan Aruch at that point? Such a big difference?
Yeah, because the Rosh wasn't universally accepted. The Shulchan Aruch, it took about 200 years, but he was universally accepted. We refer to him as Maran. The Jews Machaber, okay? But basically everybody opens up Shulchan Aruch.
But it's accepted.
Everybody's book that they're writing their commentary on and that they're getting is based upon Shulchan Aruch.
So I would think that there is three things that are happening in this period of time. Gerush Sefarad, together with a Shulchan Aruch, that does a major thing to change the system of learning, and then the Kabbalistic influence, which became very popular.
Which Kabbalistic influence are you referring to that became so popular?
Right, and the students of the Ari.
The Ari was a person.
Right.
The Ari, other than publicizing himself to Maharhu, basically, was pretty much an unknown in his day.
Right. No, but that's why I'm not talking about him. It's got to be the students that promote his name. And the students are promoting his name already, at the end of the 16th century, beginning of the 17th century.
I'm listening.
Right, and they made it very popular. They influenced the Siddur very, very strongly.
But we're not talking about the Siddur now. Now we're talking about halakhah, we're talking about Shulchan.
Right, but what
halakhah
you see,
in general was
you
influenced.
see that the impact is great.
I'm sorry?
The impact was very, very, very deep. We're ready to change.
I don't see it at all. I definitely, until now, well, your comments,
but you see
and more or less, I don't see.
You don't see Shulchan Aruch influenced by Kabbalah at all?
You see
very little.
You see the Pesikot.
There's about 10 instances in all of Shulchan Aruch that is influenced by Kabbalah. They're documented. That's a very, very small occurrence. Would you say it's a big occurrence?
Oh, wasn't the moon one of them that we did? One of those occurrences?
That's a very small thing. One thing. We're talking
That's
about a total of 10 things. Look, the Ari herself lived for under 40 years.
Right, and he when he has a major impact in his students, it's also a very short period of time.
Okay, 1534 to 1572. Right?
Right.
We go to Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, he was from 1488 to 1575.
Right.
Okay? So he also not only was around way before the Ari, but he also outlived the Ari.
Outlives them, right.
Okay? The Ari technically never wrote anything or published anything.
Nothing.
Shulchan Aruch published.
Right.
And not only did he publish once, he published more than once within his lifetime. And not only did he write Shulchan Aruch, and he wrote the Kesef Mishneh, and he wrote Shilut Shuvot, and he wrote,
Right.
and if you look at his writings in halakhah, they are based upon halakhah. They're not based upon Kabbalah.
Yes, no, absolutely. No,
Okay.
There's no question on that.
Okay, so now where does the Ari and Kabbalah fit into what you're saying over here?
Well, it's not Ne'ari himself,
Right.
but it's the students that go and they take his word and they begin to teach everybody about him, and they're very, very influential.
They teach people about him. I'm just.
They're very influential. The next
story time.
The next generations are going to be strongly influenced by it. They study Kabbalah on a regular basis. They write. The Siddur.
Studying Kabbalah means what? What do they study?
Well, studying Kabbalah becomes something very basic to become a rabbi in those days. You cannot be a rabbi that doesn't know, the basic writings of the Kabbalah.
You have to know it also because you have to interact with others. So how can you not know it?
Right. So if you take a look at how strong it became.
But in which days you're saying it became so?
Probably 100 years after that.
So important.
Within 50 years already, it's very strong.
Within 50 years.
Yeah, they write Shabbatai Sevi.
Yeah, I'm listening.
In the 1620s.
That's right.
Listening.
Yeah.
In the 1620s, he's a young boy in his late teens,
Learning Kabbalah.
and he was a Kabbalistic, but
Right.
but he wasn't the only one.
Right.
He claimed that he was better than everybody else, but everybody else, had to be Kabbalistic. You cannot be Kabbalistic. You cannot be a rabbi and not be Kabbalistic in those days. If you weren't Kabbalistic, then I mean that you knew the text, that you dealt with the text. I know Zohar and I can read it backwards and forwards and interpret it for you. And if you didn't know that, if you didn't have that, then you couldn't be with the rest of the boys.
Who are these boys that you're referring to? I totally disagree with anything you're saying here. Who was the first person that we have that published any sort of writings or ideas of the Ari, you have, first of all, Rabbi Haim Vital, who will call him the number one student or prize student, but he wasn't even the first one to write things that were published. We have Nagidum Saveh, who didn't publish until 1712.
Right.
And that's already after he passed away. So, you got to give me something much stronger than what you're saying. I don't see this great Kabbalistic influence upon halakhah. We're all familiar with the writings of the Hachamim of that period, and the She'anot Shuvot that we're looking at are not influenced by Kabbalah.
Some are, but
like what? Give me an example.
Some are, but even the ones that are not, they have to know Kabbalah.
So they have to know it. So what?
Right. But so that changed totally the trend.
Change what trend?
The trend
what?
of learning. Prior to that, you didn't have to learn the Zohar in this manner. The way we.
Shulchan Aruch was written and published before this trend of Kabbalah. Do you agree with that or no?
It seems, yeah, it seems.
Okay, so now we began this Shulchan Aruch period that we're referring to now.
Right.
How is it influenced positively or negatively by Kabbalah? What game are we playing?
Well, because it just influences you the way you think. You know, the whole thinking becomes a lot more mystical.
I think mystical comes in after they're thrown out of a land. Very hard to.
That's what some of the commentators want to say. That's
very hard to understand it, and if you're really going to go into religion and try to understand what's going on, the Kabbalistic change takes over to the people. Just do it. It's good. It's good for this world. It's good for that.
I don't buy it at all. We don't see that in history. I don't know what you're reading, but you don't see that. The people themselves were very, very far removed from Kabbalah, if anything. And yes, when Shabbatai Sevi came in with his magic and his mysticism, but you also have to understand that, yes...
He wasn't the first.
No, he was not the first, and he wasn't the last.
Told the people when they left Spain, you know the story, right? He came and he said, the Messiah is coming, the Messiah is coming. And he said that he told them this to put them at ease. Right. And that was what he did. And, 100 and some odd years later...
Okay, but other than that, you have to understand,
even
history seems to have proven... based upon what we do know about Shabbatai Sevi, most probably he was manic depressive.
Yeah.
And whenever he went into those manic stages, if you know anybody that's manic depressive, you'll see when they're in that manic stage, they enthrall. They hold your attention. They know how to talk, how to entertain. They could say things a zillion miles a minute. They could recall details of things that they were never at, that never existed, and they could talk about it as if it happened and they were there and they were with God creating the world. And when they're in that depressive mode, they go into hiding, into seclusion, and nobody hears from them, so people think that they're meditating for extended periods of time. The people themselves were just taken back by this guy. And once the people, like you said, who wanted to believe in a Messiah, because it was time for a Mashiach as far as they were concerned, when they were thrown out of everything they ever had, and now they were walking around.
The Jews of Germany, how they changed the prayer in those times.
The Jews of Germany, they also had their false messiahs over the years.
Sure. I'm saying, but that could be also influencing also. Didn't they change their prayer from... They're watching their kids being killed regularly. They turned the holiday prayers from happiness to sadness. Is that the same time period?
No. Definitely not.
Wasn't it right before?
There was a massacre, but I don't know if that...
But it was way before, and didn't affect over here. There was... I don't see the connection.
They say 1620s. That was a 1620s massacre. But no, I don't know if that really has such an impact on the people.
Frank? Wasn't the guy named Frank?
There was a guy named Frank, Jacob Frank, who was a false messiah.
There was one false messiah in the 8th century in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And he made Jews from Spain go to
and there were false messiahs
Jerusalem.
In so many different countries at different times. And
there's another one right now.
I think the only...
You see through, right?
No, the only guy I could think of from these early rabbis, let's say 1500, 1600 rabbis, that may have had Kabbalah influence in his halakhic writings, maybe Shnei the Berit. Maybe.
Right. No, I'm not
and he had no influence on Sifat Faladim.
Yeah, they write that they don't want to make rulings based on Kabbalah, but they do have a lot. See,
Sharim, like that.
What's that? No, Mosseri Sharim is later.
Much later.
Much later, is that?
No, but they do have a very strong influence on. I don't know if the word is philosophy. Their philosophy is much more based on mystical type of thought than the earlier thinkers. So I think that has to bring a change.
Well, a lot of these early Mekubalim, they only influence the people through Musar. And not through halakhah. And right now we're talking about halakhah.
Right, no, but halakhah, they feel, a lot of them, at least from what I remember, they feel very fearful of touching halakhah and saying that they're going to make decisions halakhah based on Kabbalah. Absolutely not.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
No, they would not make halakhah rulings. Those hachamim, most of them, they feel, from what I remember, they feel that they would not make rulings based on Kabbalah. Absolutely not. But
even though they were versed in Kabbalah.
Yes.
Okay, so what's the problem now?
Still old school then.
Exactly.
But the change, but the feeling, but the philosophy has changed, because now you're more mystical than philosophical. If you
and what about the Ramban, who was Mekubal and was living in the 1200s in Spain?
Right. So
then what?
Yeah. So he's a different, type of thinking than the other thinkers that were more philosophical. Yeah.
Maybe a little more closed-mindedness also into the philosophy of not taking all these Goyim philosophers and all that into Aristotle and like that, and moving into the more of the Israel closeness and Jewish philosophers.
No, if anything, that mentality that you want to say now
Maybe.
would go hand in hand with this great expulsion. Look, after all this, we were involved in the non-Jewish world. They were with us, and we were with them. We're part and parcel of each other. And now, after all this, they turned on us. They took their religion of Christianity to an extreme, and they used it to hurt us and to burn us at the stake. And now they threw us out. So we're going to close ourselves off to them. No, I don't buy the Kabbalah over here either. I don't buy influence of Kabbalah on changing things at this point. Absolutely not.
How about, I get another one.
Change your approach.
Southern Spain against Northern Spain then.
What about it?
That's the change.
Southern Spain existed over there in Spain already.
Not at this point. Everybody's out of Spain.
No, but now already by that point the Southerners are out of there and North took over.
The Northerners didn't take over, they were out. Everybody's gone, David.
But that philosophy of what they have overtook the South.
Yeah, many people from the North, obviously they all tried to exit via the South to try to get out from that way, because that was the closest way to getting to North Africa and to Ottoman Empire. But there were those people that left from the North who ventured off into Provence, into France, into Germany, and things like that.
My family's a northern route family. We have in Navarre, we have Alfazas in the 15th century living in Navarre.
Okay, that's north.
Stuff. Yeah, they went north probably.
Saying like the French influence, maybe.
Okay, but they were there. They didn't leave there and come to Safed where halakhah was happening. So what's the connection? I'm sorry, I don't see a good argument here.
Who's Maran's teachers?
Maran's teachers.
No, but that's different. No.
Maran's teachers are, what do you call Ottoman teachers.
Yeah. No, it's not going to change the halakhic. The halakhic decisions are not going to change.
What you need, really?
Right.
Your philosophy, how you live, how you influence.
And then you could,
seriously, you're going to be.
We should have it next week.
I'll put one together. We need. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just telling you that we need a timeline. A lot of times people can't place dates in history. And when you say you're talking about Maran, you're talking over here. You're talking about the expulsion. You're talking about over here.
Right.
And sometimes it helps just understanding the
100%.
general thing.
He was born in Spain,
I agree.
right?
I'll put one together. He was born in Spain, yeah.
He was born in Spain.
He wasn't educated in Spain.
No, he was a baby.
Definitely not.
He went to Turkey.
Okay.
He went to
Turkey.
Definitely not educated in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went. He was born here, and he was right in here, this whole circle here. This is our map.
Involved in halakhah. You could talk about the Magid.
See, but I would say, I don't know. What I'm saying is that it's not the halakhah that is being necessarily impacted. I'm talking about, the way people live. The thinking changes.
I don't see any thinking changing. We have to look at the writings of Maran's contemporaries, and we do not see anything happening.
No, the Tarani is not from that generation. You have to look at the next generation. That's the generation that we're talking about. Because, see, when the Ari lives in a generation where there is both, so there is a lot of other luminaries thinking one way or thinking the other. But once that thinking becomes prevalent and that becomes mainstream, so then you're going to see a different type of thought.
Do we see it?
I think so.
And if so, where?
Well, you see it definitely in a number of places that
Tell me, please.
I'd say the change is Maran and his Sanhedrin and his codifying, and that's what makes a change between the Spain.
No, that definitely is a huge change. It's a huge change, and it will have an
more of a worldly impact. Instead of its individual Spanish thinking.
It will have an
now they're more into a worldly thinking.
One thing is
he spoke Spanish. That's what he spoke. That was his language.
But a worldly putting into everyone's understanding. He's sympathetic to all causes, and it creates a whole new religion again.
But it's more than that. It's more than that. He wrote. Mitrani doesn't write. He writes. He wins. That's how. That's the name of the game.
Did he win in his time?
No, it doesn't. You don't have to win in your time. He was passed away when he started winning. Mitrani was also passed away by the time Shulchan Aruch is winning. But he's winning because there's a book out there, and it's a book that's well organized and that you can refer to. Mitrani has no book, so where are you going to go to get information? You can't. See, that's the great thing about Yosef today. He's winner because there is a book. And every time that you're going to have a question, you're going to refer to the book. And so, we might not see it, but 100 years from now, people will refer to the book. It's going to be about Yosef's book. Absolutely.
As you have the Ben Ish Chai, the Yosef from the previous generation.
Right.
The whole thing with the Ben Ish Chai in the previous generation is not what you're thinking. The Ben Ish Chai passed away in 1909. Ben Ish Chai was printed, yes, a short while before that. The question is, why did it become popular? The answer is very simple as to why. There are two answers as to why it became popular. First of all, it was written in a very simple, easy manner for people. But more than that, you had all the Babylonians, all the Baghdadians who left Babel, they left Iraq. You had those that were great Zionists, and they moved to the city of Yerushalayim, and they brought with them the teachings of their rabbi and his book, which happened to have been published in Yerushalayim to begin with anyway. They also took it with them to other countries that they left to, whether it was India or London or Hong Kong, wherever they went, they took his thing. But the biggest influence of the Ben Ish Chai, because even that, it was somewhat big, but the biggest influence of the Ben Ish Chai came with the creation of the state of Israel. All the Baghdadis were basically airlifted to Israel, and what was going on at that time, nobody had a lot of money. And they were opening up small synagogues here and there. I heard this from a number of people in Israel, many years ago. They told me what was going on as to how the Ben Ish Chai became to be so popular in Israel. Is that, as we know, the Ben Ish Chai is published as, is listed as by Parashah and by Shana Shaniya. So a Baghdadi guy would go up to the Sefer Torah on Shabbat. He doesn't have money to donate, or he doesn't want to say, okay, I'm going to give $3, whatever. Gets up, I'm donating 2 pamphlets of Ben Ish Chai Parashat Shemot. The next week, this guy donates. Each guy's donating pamphlets of Ben Ish Chai Halachot. You go to the Knis, what do you find? You find Sidurim, and you find pamphlets of Halachot. And throughout the 50s, that's what was going on. By 1960, that's all any Sephardi was reading. Because it was pennies. and
they
it was
didn't have a
available.
dime. The Jews in Baghdad were very.
I think that's
a fact.
That makes the great difference.
So many people in Israel told me about
that
this.
That makes the point, because Shulchan Aruch is available. So that's who you're going to go after. The claim is that Mishneh Torah.
So the Cherba book is around. That's what we're going to know in the future.
Mishnah Berurah is around. The Ashkenazim did the most amazing thing. They published Mishnah Berurah like there was no other book.
Right.
Everybody in the yeshivot and the Ashkenazi world today.
Everything is Mishnah Berurah.
Everything Mishnah Berurah. And it's not because it's the greatest book. It's because it's the only book out there.
Do you hear that, Mr. Publisher?
I've heard this from David Chevy told me this. It's very interesting. Same thing. It's the only thing out there.
So you hear what you have to start writing?
Oh, yeah.
You're just talking to yourself. Look, take a mirror here.
It's the only
They don't have
book
to
out
write
there.
anything right now.
Huh?
Not on this, at least.
No.
It's the only book out there. So that's it. That takes over. Or even if there were two books, but the book that is published, that's the book. The most. I mean, who else can compete against Mishnah Berurah? It's only because it was published.
Alright, so now we're saying that, at least over here he's saying that this switch from the Rishonim to Shulchan Aruch was caused by Girus Sefarad, which of course the rabbi doesn't like. Next, the Ma'abar of the Tikufat Shulchan Aruch to the Aharonim, he says over here, En Shum Hezber Histori. There is no historical understanding or rationale for it. V'hayemim nomar. We are forced to say, we're obligated. Ki min hashamayim lichot Maran Malkah. That it's only from the Shamayim that they caused Maran, Rabbi Yosef Karo, to rule. Like Maran was told by his Magid. Umaran התקבל על כל עם ישראל, כולל האשכנזים שקיבלוהו אחרי שהוסיפו עליו את הגאות הרמה. And that includes all of Am Yisrael accepted Maran, including the Ashkenazim who accepted him once they added their glosses. Now, obviously, it doesn't end there, and he's going to go to a next paragraph where he's going to look at Yahas HaHachamim LaHachmei HaTikufot HaKodmot. Alright, the relation that the Hachamim had to the previous periods of time. And then Yahasut Maran Rishonim, then the way Maran looked at the Rishonim. And you will look at the different stages. Obviously, we're not done. We only touched upon a few pages.
We didn't begin yet.
No, we didn't begin yet. I think this is very, very important to study, because we're constantly studying different teshuvot, and we're talking about the Hachamim here and the Hachamim there, but we need to understand the relationship and what's going on, and and how these periods were delineated.